Yo, today we're going to be talking about how I've upgraded my vintage road bike. It was actually my dad's. He purchased it in the 90s. It's a steel frame, doors. I've been riding it up until this day. Also, I think the cat's just done a poo. But yeah, before we do that, I'm going to go sort this barnet out because look at it, it's going a bit crazy. I'm going to go get a haircut and then I'll come back and then we'll go through what changes I made. Alright, so got my fresh cut, but something happened last night. It snowed. That is snow. Let it snow. Yeah. And here it is. This is my Dawes Horizon. I've made quite a bit of changes to this bike. I think the only original is the seat post, the stem clamp, the stem, the headset, frame, and the forks. Everything else I've changed on this bike. For those of you who don't know, I've had this bike for quite a while now, and also my dad actually bought it firsthand. He bought it back in the 90s, I want to say the early 90s, and he did his London to Brighton on it. I've done my London to Brighton on it, and yeah, let's go through some of the changes that I've made to this bike. Let's start with the cockpit and the changes I've made here, because this has been a big upgrade. Originally it did have the drop handlebars, and I've gone ahead and changed the bars. They've gone from the ones that came with it originally to flat bars because my dad wanted to ride flat bar at one point because he found the drop bars a bit too uncomfortable. And then I went back and found some other drop bars and I put them on here. They're a bit narrow. I want to say they're about 38 because they feel too narrow for me. I'd ideally run a 40 on mine. I bought this when I didn't know anything about bikes, and I wanted to go back to drop bars. Originally it had, trigger brakes, and I changed those and put like some old school BMX ones because I wanted to look like a fixed gear. So I had actually brake levers here in the middle, and then this was all empty here. There was no like brake hoods or shifters here because the shifters were actually on the frame because it being an old vintage bike. And that's why I also changed to these, because a customer didn't want them anymore. He had a crash on his bike. They got some scratches on them, but they worked really well. And I decided, well, let me put them on this bike, and here they are. They're the Shimano Claris, so it's an 8-speed shifters. Got a shifter for the front here and shifter on the back here. Moving down the bike, we've got new front brake calipers. I've also changed the rear brake calipers just to some normal Shimano ones. The issue with this was it was running an old style one, and if you can see on the back here, it used to have a bolt coming out the back and then a nut that's screwed onto the back. I actually drilled a hole in the back of this to make it a bit more modern. Ooh, she's in. When I get to the back brake, I'm actually running a front brake on the back because they have a longer bolt on the back, so it meant that I didn't need to drill a hole in the back to accommodate a brand new one. All right, so I thought I'd just show you, I made a quick change. I've added new wheels to them. They were second hand from my friend Carlos. He didn't use them anymore, so I was getting rid of them, and I bought them off him for a really good price. I've then also put some full fenders because obviously this is just going to be a commuter bike for me. I actually prefer riding my gravel bike for long distance, but yeah, this one will just be going to and from the shops, locking up outside. But to make it commuter friendly, I've also put some Schwalbe Marathon Plus tires on there. These are great for puncture resistance, so I don't have to change too much when it comes to inner tubes and worrying about punctures a lot. Also, these Schwalbes come with a reflective, so it means you're more visible at night. One thing I did add on the bike, not mainly for security reasons, but because the quick releases with these weren't strong enough, so I had to get something that I could bolt on, and I ended up just going with a pit lock. They're a secure nut that goes through the bolt, and you got to have a special key to undo it. So that means people can't steal my wheels. Some people say they can still break them with a screwdriver, but if you've got them up really tight, it's really hard to do so. Here's where the big change came, because the shifters actually used to be here instead of up here. It used to be a 6-speed shifter, and I had to get these barrel adjusters from Shimano. Quite easy to find. Got them in and threaded it in nicely, so the cables are all running down smoothly down the back here. But yeah, it was a bit awkward having to shift gears here, you know, taking your hands off the wheel, especially when you're going uphill and you wanted to change gear. Another change I added was this new chainring and crank arm set. I had to change the whole bottom bracket to fit this in. So I've now got an external bottom bracket. It is a threaded one, so it was really easy to put on. And the benefit of having this, it means the bearing cups are wider, making it more stiffer, and it means I can run more modern chain rings. I could have easily got the Claris one, but this one looked nicer. It's actually built for a 10 speed, so this is 8 speed. So you might get a bit slipping. I've noticed something going on with the 4th gear when I'm in that. Also, I've put new pedals on. I'm running mountain bike clips. These were kind of like the entry level ones, nothing to do with like XT or anything like that, which I have on my gravel bike. The problem with this is, especially with the snow, I don't really want to be riding clipped in, especially if there's ice on the roads and just slipping off. So I'd probably want to run a flat pedal. Ideally maybe the flat pedal on one side and clipping on the other. Other change is this Claris shifter. This was also found in the workshop going free, so put this one on. Yeah, I had to get some spacers on the inside because it wouldn't fit around the tube, but now I've got it all running smoothly and it shifts really nicely. All right, now finishing up on the back end of the bike. Again, got new wheels, same set as the ones on the front. Obviously with the new hub, this can actually accommodate, I think 11 speed. I probably wouldn't go up to 11 speed. I'd probably run a 10 speed if I wanted to later on. Again, got the Schwalbe Marathons on, new brakes. This is actually a front caliper. Like I said, the benefit of having the front one, it had a longer bolt at the back, which means I can thread it through and put a bolt there. Again, full length mud guards, great for protecting your rear end and your bike from water and mud. Put an 8-speed Shimano cassette on the back. Running pit locks, again, was trying to run the skewers, and when I was pedaling along and braking, it would shift it and pull the wheel out, so I had to get something more robust. Had to buy this one, got it quite cheap actually, the Claris rear mech. The actual hard part of this was the rear mech hanger. It was an old school one, so it's fully attached to the old rear mech, and I couldn't for the life of me get it off. So I had to find one. It was quite hard to source, but managed to find it, and yeah, it works really well. It actually threads into where the wheels go, so it hasn't got any bolts or holes drilled in for the rear mech. One thing I have changed is the saddle on here. I've put a Bontrager one on there. It's a bit more streamlined, and I can clip my light to the back here because I've got a Bontrager light as well. Also, I've added a nice lightweight carbon fiber drinks holder. Unfortunately, you can't put one up here, so I've been on longer rides where I wish I had two, but unfortunately I can't do that here because there's no bolts. That's a quick walk around my Dawes Horizon and the upgrades I've made to make it a rideable commuter, make it more modern, not a vintage road bike. Some people prefer the vintage look, and who knows, I might go back and change things. There's so many things you can do with a bike, and I really love the process of upgrading this and making it a bit more modern. Some things I haven't worked out is obviously the handlebar width. It's not that comfortable for me, it's too narrow. Great thing is it can squeeze in between cars, like small narrow gaps, but also finding the right position for my hands here, because at the moment it's still not very comfortable. But yeah, it just shows you don't have to like buy a really expensive bike. You could probably buy a cheap road bike. I think I got my girlfriend's one for about a couple of £100, and you could easily do that one up. That came with an 8-speed, so I could have easily put these shifters on there and turned it into a modern road bike. Let me know if you've made any customizations to your old bikes. Have you done them up so they ride really well? Another good place to take your old bike is to a workshop and see what they can do for you, see what changes they can make to make the bike run smoothly and really nice. That's what I've done, just constantly upgrade. But I've got to a point now where I'm happy with the changes I made, and you know, I actually really enjoy riding this bike. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as it helps a lot and I appreciate it so much. Hope you're staying safe, staying positive, having fun, and I shall see you in the next one.